Hey everybody, it's AJ Puedan and welcome to the show, Getting Better, Faster, and Easier. And today I have a great friend that I think is going to be very stimulating for conversation. Hey everybody, this is Heather Havenwood. How are you doing, Heather?
I'm doing great today, AJ. How are you?
Fantastic. So those new to the show, pretty much the format of the show is that we don't have format. It really kind of starts off with me and my friends at a coffee shop in Starbucks having these great deep conversations, and I just thought it'd be good to kind of join in with people because my friends that I have like Heather are not just, I don't think they're your average thinker. They're kind of weird, kind of strange. Don't you think that the group of people are kind of strange? And
we are kind of strange.
Yeah, and so I got a feeling the people who are watching the show are probably kind of strange a little bit. So we'll probably just jump into the conversation real. It'll probably just be a great fit. So anyways, I want to tell people how I first met you, and then some of my thoughts, and then from there we'll just carry on to kind of ponder life together. So
okay, good.
Boy,
because when did we meet?
Geez, I'm not 2000 something to 2004, 2006.
Yeah, it was at least 2000, 2003. I moved to Florida in late 2001 after September 11th.
Now back then, you weren't coaching people, were you? Or
no.
Were you? No, you weren't coaching people. You were attending a personal development event, and
yes.
That's just kind of how we met. And it wasn't through the regular channels that I normally meet people, and so you quickly got thrown into with a bunch of professionals and kind of learned the ropes and have made quite the name for yourself. I'll tell you, a lot of people come to me asking me for about seminar help and just how to launch their particular business. And if it's not me, and Heather is one of the people that I highly recommend. I'm not sure if you're still doing anything around that realm, but as far as people who know the industry of things, sees and logistics, and understands speakers and understands students and what it requires for a student to ultimately learn, I highly respect what she stands for and what she does. And lately, you've taken all the years of expertise and you packaged it into something pretty sexy. In fact, it's called Sexy Boss, right?
SexyBossInc.com. And going back to what you're talking about, I think that's why you and I connected. You and I both have years. I think you trumped me by a couple of years, but you and I have that connection where we have developed events for other people for years. We've seen the ups and downs and the behind the scenes of the industry for many, many years. For me, at least a decade. For you, maybe a decade and a half. And we've seen the background of that, and I think that's where you and I first connected, is that we understand what goes on behind the scenes and what it really takes.
Long term as well.
Long term.
Yeah, because you've seen speakers and students kind of shortcut things, and we've seen that. We kind of know, it's like, oh, we know where that's going. We know where that's going.
Yeah. Yeah, the people that were around and people that we knew back in 2003 and 4 and 5 back then most of them aren't around anymore. Some are, but majority of them have come and gone. They're just people, that were on some lists. But, it's interesting because part of the background I have, and you have as well, and I think that's why we connect, and why I respect you so much, is that because you've seen the intricacies, you understand what happens, what really goes on. I look at it as like a movie director and a producer. We've produced, we've directed, we've done every element. We've been the cameraman, we've been the grip, we've been the concierge, we've been the valet.
Every role.
We've been every role, including like the every now and then random actor walking in, right? The extra. So we've done it all, and we've seen which actors and actresses, which directors, which companies succeed and why. We've seen that. I know I have, and you and I can both walk into any kind of company, organization, and or with a particular person and say, this is what you're doing right, this is what you're doing wrong, and if you want success, you got to go over here, because that's where it's going to be. We've seen that not over a 2-year period, over a decade. So
Well, I've really enjoyed the career as superhero. In other words, the one that helps the other people, succeed. And I know that you've been, very successful at that. And what I'm pretty excited that, and happy for you, because I see you really stepping up to saying, you know what, it's about time for me. It's time for me. And you've taken all the lessons that have worked, that work over the years. You kind of packaged it. You've added what is uniquely your own. And we've already said the name Sexy Boss, because that's the name of your company. And you have a book on Amazon called Sexy Boss, right? So hey, everybody, check out Sexy Boss on Amazon.com. It's I read the book, and it's a great book. It's a really, really good book. And so that's pretty awesome. What's for those who don't know, and this, I really didn't mean this to be a kind of a promotional, but I'm sure nobody seems to mind, because I just want to find, what's a topic for, what's going on there in life, and what some advice we can give to each other. And so the whole concept of Sexy Boss, I think, really kind of fits in right now into today's times. Can you give me your perspective of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sexy Boss the reason I created Sexy Boss was, in the book specifically, is kind of my life story. In fact, a lot of friends and family that have read the book have said to me, I didn't know you went through all of that. I mean, it tells the story. It's called From Bankruptcy to Sexy Boss is one of the chapters. And it's true. I got wiped out completely. I mean, wiped out. I remember days in months being able to live on $200. Don't know how I did that, but I did. And it wasn't because I thought in my head when I graduated college and getting my master's, that was how life was going to go. But that's what happened, and I had to take responsibility for that. So it's my life of that, and learning, and what it took to rise up and say, I'm a sexy boss. I'm the boss of my life. I'm responsible for everything that happens to me, all my success, all my bankruptcy, all that. That's all mine. And to own that. And the first chapter is called Wake the Beep Up. That's the name of the first chapter. Wake the F Beep Up. Yeah. And people are always like, whoa. But that really is part of it. It's like kind of it's Sexy Boss is about slap in the face of wake up. Wake up. You are the owner of your life. No matter what happens to you, you are. And so it was kind of I remember a mentor of mine, someone I worked for, Alex Mendozian, back in 2007. He said to me, I remember the phone call. We were talking on the phone and chatting, and I was really upset. It was the middle of the bankruptcy. It was in the middle of the mess, right? And he said to me, you need to tell your story. And I was like, no way. I mean, I was like, you've got to be, and at that moment, I was not mentally at all ready to share what I was going through. No way. But now, it's been 6 years, now 7 years actually, later, I'm telling this story not out of a poor me, but out of a, there's a lot of things that have happened. It's more like, here's just something that's happened. Here's something that I would say, in a way, I could say I caused. Now, there's all kinds of circumstances I can blame. So SexyBossInc.com, and my story is about, what does it take to be an entrepreneur? What really does it take to be an entrepreneur? What's the in-your-face stuff? And that's what it's about.
What I find interesting about what you said is that, first of all, it's like, in this world today, I guess it was my question, and your Sexy Boss was kind of the answer. The first thing is to wake up, first just kind of, just a big wake up. And even if you think you're wide alert and you know what's going on, it also means like to step outside of yourself, to see the bigger picture or the more detailed picture, or just to see what's, directly in front of you. I think so many people miss that. And, no matter how crazy it is going around you, what do we do? I mean, we've got to take responsibility, and this is kind of the hard thing. The first thing to create change, is first, if you could take responsibility for all the bad stuff, oh my gosh, then all of a sudden you're in this power position to change things. If you can't take responsibility for the bad stuff, then you're just in a victim mode. It's just like, well, stuff happens to me, I remember watching the thing on Giuliani right after 9/11, And on his desk he has this plaque that says "I'm responsible." And it's like, what's that about? It's like, well, I'm responsible for everything. It's like, because if I don't take that, how do I get how do I carry the city forward? And that was one of his mottos of just being responsible.
Yeah, I met him January last year, so about a year ago in New York. And I was at a seminar, a very small, intimate seminar. I got to meet him, and he talked a lot about that. He was like, "This is my city. I have to own all of it." And he was talking a lot about where the government in New York was when he walked in the office, and it was a lot of slack. And he just talked a lot about the issues they were having internally. And if you listen to him, it sounds very overwhelming. Like, how in the world are you going to change a culture? Because it was like a culture inside of an entity called the New York government, right?
Yeah.
And listen to his story, but he could have easily gone, well, I can't change it. Those are New Yorkers. They're going to be the way they are, and I can't do anything about it. But he had an intention, he had a reason, he had a focus, and his whole focus was crime and lowering crime. Therefore, they would increase tourists and like that. And when he got the city behind him, then there was a focus. And that's one of the things I talk about in Sexy Boss in my book, as well as just in my life, which is, yes, you can go do something for money. And yes, I highly suggest that you do something for money. But at the same time, you've got to have some kind of purpose beyond that, but make sure there's two purposes. So let me give you an example. I have a lot of people that I know that want to start a business to change the world. That's awesome. And then I said, great. And women are notorious for this. They want to create a business or something to change the world. And I'm like, okay, how are you going to make money? And they're like, well, I don't know. I'm like, that's a problem. So the being able to create a business or create anything or work inside of a huge organization like the government and be able to create revenue and create business as well as make a difference on the planet is, I think, the ultimate purpose of anyone.
It's about having a balance. About why go for one when you can have two, right? I talk about passion, and when someone's living passionately, some people think like the terms pain and pleasure are two opposite things, and to me, they're two completely separate entities that we can focus in the same direction. In other words, you think about passionate relationship, and it's like all great, but then you think about some, like an organization like MAD or something like that, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. I gotta imagine that person was pretty passionate too. But was that about pleasure? No, it's about pain. So if you can take something that causes pain and pleasure, put them in the same direction, we got something we call passion. And so what I like what you're saying is, it's like, look, love what you do, have a purpose, and make sure it's reciprocal, and you're getting this great business together.
Yes.
You're right. The female energy is kind of notorious of just doing what feels good, but not necessarily very productive. But at the same time, this is what I like about you, and I think this is where we get. There's also the people that we've seen. I mean, our world has been over the last few years has been pretty dominant male oriented, to where it was all about just the money and like no purpose at all. And so that's it's all about the boss but no sexy.
Yes, yeah, there was no essence to it. I laugh about this because I've had this many times over the last year in my first year of the business, and I've had a few men come to me and say, I don't think women want to be the boss and sexy. Now, when I hear that, I go, it's funny. I think you should ask your wife that question tonight. I think you should tell your wife, because I bet you $1 million if you look at her and go, honey, I don't really think you want to be sexy and the boss. And she'll probably either slap you or laugh at you, because every woman wants to feel sexy and the boss. But yet in the experience of this particular industry right now, it's very, it has been, not everyone, been very dominated, just like, that kind of feeling. Yeah. And that's not what I want to create. So I'm empowering women and men to start and own a business online. That's what I want, because that's what I feel empowered to do. Other people have empowered me. But in the yin and yang, I also have another business called Dating Triggers, Only Date Younger Women, where I teach men to how to, you talk about pain, right? The pain. They have a pain called, they want to attract a very strong female in their life. They want to attract a loving woman in their life. How do they do that? Women have altered over the last 10 years. They have strength, they have financial, their own self. So you have a man now, lots of times, generally speaking, that's confused. How do I attract and then be in relationship with a woman like that? Who is a sexy boss? And then as a woman, women are confused, like, okay, now I have this financial power, but I want to have freedom. I want to have it all. How do I do that without being a biatch, a bitch? So how do you have that kind of yin yang balance as well? And it's synergized. And I had someone the other day who is a publisher, New York publisher, New Yorker, love New Yorkers, but I don't know, maybe it's different industry, different. He was just older, but he said, I don't think women would like it if you teach men about dating. And I'm like, what do you mean? Because I'm teaching men how a strong woman thinks.
Yeah.
And I'm teaching a woman who's already maybe strong. I'm just going deeper in with her and how to empower her to have it all. Maybe in the area that, so it's a combination of the male and female. Now, what's really interesting, and you and I have talked about this, is like, obviously Sexy Boss, when I first started it, I thought it was going to be mainly geared towards female. What I'm learning, it's not a male-female game. It really is that ownership. You're a sexy boss. I mean, you're a
Thank you.
You are a sexy boss to me. You own your life. You take control. You say, this is what I want. You go after it, and you own your power. That's a sexy boss, no matter what age, race, nationality. It doesn't matter. That is what a sexy boss is.
Very cool. Very cool. I've seen and right now the timing's right. I do see a lot of conferences, especially kind of moving towards like women's conferences and stuff like that. And what I see that is, it's really just kind of balancing what was out, what's out there in the marketplace. And, and yet I see this interesting trend. I saw, a few years ago, what I might call an irresponsible hard sale, where they just sold people who shouldn't have been sold something. And now I'm getting, I'm starting to see what I almost call an irresponsible soft sale.
Yes.
People that they want to grow their business, but they are so repulsed by the idea of a salesperson. Whatever I can do to not be a salesy, how to sell without selling is all the things. It's like bull, It's like, you gotta sell still,
Yeah.
It's you gotta speak up. You gotta, help the people. And so it's kind of having that balance between the two.
I'll tell you, going to sales, I came from a sales background. I mean, I was in a sales organization at the time of 21. I was 21 years old, had no idea. I begged, it was a big major company, Southwestern Bell, if you remember back then, big company, and I begged this, 40-something-year-old manager to hire me as a sales guy. And he's like, you understand that the average person in my sales floor is like 40 plus, married, kids, male. And I'm like, I know, but I can do it. And he's like, okay, I'm 21. I hadn't even finished college yet. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I just knew, I knew I'd be good at sales. I didn't want to be customer service, right? So I was like, just give me a shot. He goes, you got 90 days. If you don't make the cut, you're out, right? So I was like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? 100% commission. I don't need much at the age of 21. So not bad, right? But at the end of 4 years, I lasted there for 4 years. At the end of the 4 years, I was number one out of the entire country of all their reps. They had 10,000 reps across the country from New York to LA and in between. And I was number one at the age of 24, 25. I was the youngest. I was one of the only females. Now, at the time, it's what they call that subconscious. I didn't know what I was doing. I just was like doing it, right? I don't know. I just did it. I still to this day can't exactly break down what I did. But I definitely know it wasn't from a male place. It was just doing what I thought to do. You know what I mean? That subconscious part. And it wasn't until years later now and got into this business that I was like breaking down the sales process. So it's not even about hammering or not. There is a process to sales in general because human beings have not really changed much in 10, 15, 20, 30 years. We all want pleasure. We want to be away from pain. We want something that's going to help us, to give us freedom and power, right? Doesn't matter. That doesn't change. And I do experience that, what you're saying, that a lot of clients, specifically women for some reason, that don't want to sell. They don't want to sell. But sales is it is the oldest game in the book, and you have to be able to be comfortable with yourself, comfortable with your product to be able to do that. And that's a sexy boss.
Again, what I like is I think you really encourage, for some, being successful is lonely at the top. And in other words, if you're a strong female that, trying to find that mate, if they'll say is tough, or if you are that strong male, just finding, if you want a strong female, it's still kind of tough. And so, but you're really encouraging people, look, don't lower yourself for someone else. If you are already a productive person, then stay productive. Just learn how to take up the people around you. And at the same time, I think you're also teaching other people who, may not necessarily see themselves by your definition as that sexy boss yet, and yet they would like to. And the first step is, hey, wake up, slap, boom, wake up, and start to take some control and do that. So how can, is it just on Amazon, or is there another site where they can get your book or something like that?
Well, officially, it should be the next 2 weeks. So by the time this comes out, the book is also on Audible.
Oh, cool.
.com. So if you're auditory and will listen to it. Now, I have to say, when I first got into doing my audiobook, I had no clue what that was. I thought that meant I got on Skype and I, got a recording device and I busted out my book. No. So I learned something. I learned the art of voice, and I learned how to go into production house and sit and with the, the big, huge things on your head, right?
Yeah.
And producer out there. And I had to read my book, word for word. It was so hard, AJ. It was one of the most challenging things because we don't talk that way, word for word. And I would have a great producer, Joel, but he was also like a coach, and here I am, and I'm in there and I'm reading, and then, he was reading too. And if I missed a word, he'd go, stop, do it again. And I'm like, ah! do it again. I'm like, ah! You talk about a coach in your ear.
Okay, I got to ask, how long did it take you?
It took me about a month and a half. I would go in for sessions for 2 hours.
People don't have any idea how tough that is.
No idea. You think you just go in, you're like, I'm just going to read the thing. I mean, 2 hours, I would be exhausted. I'm like, I want to go take a nap. And he said, usually people can't last more 2.5. If they're a real hardcore professional, maybe 3 hours. So I have an utmost respect for anybody that does voiceovers, who does audiobooks, who does all the Disney stuff that you see. I mean,
well, I was really surprised to hear that you did your own audiobook. In your voice, because I know it's difficult. And that's a lot of work. So audible.com.
Audible.com, and actually my producer Joel, he literally, because I went in for my first session, and I got out, and you should have seen that my face was white. I was just I didn't expect that. And he goes, okay, I'm giving you one last shot. You don't have to do this. I know people. I will get you a voiceover. And I said, I'm going to do this. He's like, you're crazy. I was like, I'm doing it. So it took me about 2 months, about a month and a half to 2 months. So yeah, it's on Audible, which is through Amazon. So just go to Amazon, and then it'll be on iTunes and things like that. It's all downloadable audio, and it's me speaking my entire book. So you'll get a true essence of what Sexy Boss is.
All right. Hey, everybody. This is Heather Havenwood. I'm AJ Puedan. Like this video, subscribe so you can keep watching some stuff, and find me on Facebook and places, and find Heather too, and follow what we're doing.
I sell these shirts too. I want to say that being the boss is sexy. That's my tagline. I don't know if y'all can see that on the video, but being the boss is sexy. These are t-shirts of mine. So
very cool. All right. Hey, everybody. Take care. We'll see you next round.